Let's talk a little bit about acorns, for those who are interested to listen. So I found this oak tree with, it was an English oak, and it had, or it's having, it's over now, what's called a mast year. And a mast year is when there is an absolute abundance of fruit. So there were thousands of acorns on this tree. And it was on my cycle route right at the side of the road. So half of the acorns were falling on the road and on the path and ended up in the gutter. So it was perfect to harvest them. On the other side of the hedgerow was a ploughed field and a grass verge, and there were no acorns there at all. And yet there was about 500 yards to the nearest of the hedgerow and trees. So squirrels had a long way to come to harvest them, and so I couldn't quite work that one out. Maybe there were hedgehogs or some other animals which were gathering them all up. But there were hundreds on the road side and none on the other side. So down here I have well, what I did was, let me give you a bit of a guided tour. Here is an English oak which is a year old, and it grew in two stages. First off, it grew like this with two leaves on, and it stayed dormant for about 4 months, and then it shot the second bit out, so that's doing really well. Very happy with that. Then I've tried different things, like I put the acorns on top of the peat, and I buried a lot in there, and then I've put some on top also, just to see what happens the best. And it turns out what happens the best is when you just leave them alone in their own moisture. See, these are about some of them are 3 weeks old, and they're pretty dry now, and you know, I've been breaking them open. If you crush them like this, you see, you can break them open and peel the shell off, which I've been doing. But left to their own devices, they very quickly sprout out and attempt to enjoy life. So I've just been placing some of these on there because I'm going to grow these oaks until they're about this big, 1 year, and then I'm going to repot them in long kind of like bedding trays, you know, like you see at the garden centre, so I can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in each of those. And so I'll have a lot of them and have them around the house until they're big like that, and then I'll go and plant them in my favourite places. Now here are the rest of the acorns. And of course there's been lots which have gone bad and lots which have had grubs in them, and I've broken them all open and I've found these little caterpillar grubs in there, and I don't know, I've not looked into it, what sort of bug they are, whether they are a wasp, because oak trees have wasps which they lay their larvae in the flower before it creates an acorn, and that's what manifests these galls. You know, you've seen these strange configurations. Some of them are perfectly round balls, others are all different spiky and things like that. They are mutations. They were going to be an acorn, but the wasp larvae is in them, and it's eating its way out, and it will eventually you know, come out as a wasp, and then continue the cycle. So what I've been doing is I've been breaking lots of them open as I sit in front of a computer at night, and they've been drying out, but there's quite a lot of them that are going mouldy, and I don't know whether this mould is going to be bad for humans or squirrels, and so I'm going to boil these, and one of the ways to get the tannins out is that you leave them in boiling water. You don't actually boil them up. I think you just leave them in boiling water. Let them sit for 10-20 minutes until it cools a little bit. Then you do it again until the dark tannins stop seeping out, and then you dry them out again. And I think I'm going to roast them in the oven, and I'm going to make some. I'm going to pick out the better ones, which don't have any mould on at all, and I'm going to make some cakes out of those. Some of these I will be shelling, and some of them I just feed the squirrels. I feed them a few like this each day to supplement their diet, because there's no oak trees within several hundred yards of where I live, but there are many in the churchyard and graveyard. So that's what I've been doing, and we're going to see what happens, and if I can get a right good bunch of these English oaks growing. So if I just put this down here, and I get one of these acorns and break it open. There are good sized nut in here, and these nuts, they are pretty tasty. Now, this is when they've got the tannins and they're a bit bitter. They're almondy. They're a nice texture, but there's a slight bitterness to them, and once the bitterness has left, they're going to be a tasty nut, and so I wouldn't have any problem grabbing a handful of those, just like I do of any of the other nuts that I have and eat on a regular basis. So then when I have roasted some of these, I'm going to grind them down. Partially, I want them still to be chunky, so I'll grind them in the blender very briefly, and then I'll look on YouTube for a recipe to make acorn cakes. You can make bread if you grind it down into flour, but I'm more just like looking to make the biscuits, and I'm assuming they're going to be very tasty and wholesome. So that's what I'm going to do, peeps. And so it's pretty laborious, because you've got to really kind of crack them, and you've got to get your nails in, and you peel away little by little. It's not easy, and so this hunter-gathering, foraging lifestyle, you know, was absolutely laborious on many measures. And so you can imagine the kids probably would have this job when, you know, they're sitting in their homes, whatever they were, and you know, maybe under candlelight, or later with a kerosene lamp or something like that, they would be breaking these over and preparing them. And so that's a very wholesome looking nut, and so I'm going to be finding those, and I'm going to be preparing a load of those, and so I'll let you know how that goes, people.